This group, I think at cornerback, is the best in the NFL, and it's not even close, and you did get better from last year. The Denver Broncos 53-man roster is set, and it is so much better than the roster they had last year. We're going to break that down on this conversation because looking at the 53-man roster this year compared to last year's 53-man roster, and then what the roster looked like at the end of the season, this Broncos team, you can make a case, is better at every single position on the entire roster. And Henry, what we can't forget, this was a playoff team last year with a rookie quarterback, and we'll go down. But I believe that it's an easy argument to be made that the Broncos are better at every position than they were last year.
I know one for sure they're not.
Oh, what's that?
Punter.
Okay. And you know what? If that's the case right there, which you could be right.
And by the end of the year, you hope it's better.
Exactly. But on the week one starting roster, if there's one position, and you're right, you got me. If there's one position that's weaker come week one, you would say punter because they have a rookie who's very raw, Jeremy Crawshaw, compared to Riley Dixon last year. Riley Dixon, you kind of knew what you were going to get with him. And Jeremy Crawshaw, you have no idea what you're going to get with him on a punt-by-punt basis. But you're right. At the end of the season, you hope that he's better, and that's why the Broncos are doing that. Can you make an argument for any other position? Because you got me on one, and it's the freaking punter.
I think I look at where there's no evidence. So, like, running back, you're still waiting for evidence. I think we all like the moves they've made, but until you actually see, like, J.K. Dobbins was what he was beginning of last year, not the end of last year, where, you know, after the first 2 weeks, he averaged 3.8 yards per carry. Javonte Williams averaged 3.8 yards per carry last year. It's the same number.
No,
R.J. Harvey, like, you still got to see. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying I would trade this year's running backs room for last year's, but that's one where we don't have the evidence yet.
I understand what you're saying, and it's fair to bring up, but I have the evidence of what I need with how bad the room was last year.
Okay.
You've moved on from your top guys from last year, and you have a whole new set. Remember, in Sean Payton's offenses, the third string running back only sees the ball 4%, or only sees the field 4% of snaps. So the Broncos have thrown out the room from last year outside of keeping, Jaleel, and they now have a room where it is going to be R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, and just those two right there, I've seen enough. It's better.
Really?
It's better than last year. And what I think we'll learn, Henry, throughout the season is just how much better. Is it just a little bit better? I don't think so. Is it a lot better? I think so. Or is it one of the best running back rooms in the NFL? That's something where we're still waiting to find out just how big that variance is. But no, I've already seen enough. It's better.
Wow. Okay, there we go. J.K. Dobbins has not taken a carry yet, right? He didn't get any in the preseason?
Correct. He had one catch in the preseason.
Okay, seen enough.
That was it. I've seen enough.
Okay.
I've seen enough. The running back room is better.
I guess receiver, the case being you lose Devon Vele. You hope that Pat Bryant is a one-for-one replacement right away and you're off and running. And then the difference would be you now have another year of experience for Troy Franklin, for Marvin Mims.
Yep.
And so that if you hope that you cancel out Vele with Bryant and then those two raise the field. But again, like if Pat Bryant as a rookie isn't ready to be, what he was, what Vele was, is the number 3 receiver in catches and yards and touchdowns for the Broncos last year, then all of a sudden you might be asking quite a bit for the other two to be stepping up in front.
You have 3 guys, though, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, and Marvin Mims. 2 of those guys have been in the system already. I expect those guys to take a jump, which right there I just think takes over where you were last year. And then Pat Bryant, the X factor. Can he raise this room into being a very good room? Does he take a step up? Does it take him a year? It's a fair question on Pat to ask him to step in to be a Devon Vele replacement. Because Devon Vele, 43 catches as a rookie and 8 for 8 in his very first game in the NFL. That's a tall step to ask for Pat Bryant to take as a rookie. But I think where I feel comfortable saying it's a better room is the development of Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. It's 2 of those guys.
What are the odds you get to the end of the season and Devon Vele, you look back and say he would have been your number 2 receiver?
What are the odds?
I'd say like 20%?
Yep.
25%?
I agree.
There's like a 1 in 4 chance maybe.
Yep.
And then wide receiver 3, probably about the same.
Yep. And then that's why I'd put my money on this group being
Roll the
better
dice.
than last year.
Yep.
And then tight end, obviously.
That's easy.
At Evan Engram. Come on. Enough said right there. This room might be better even if they didn't have Evan Engram, and they had Caleb Lohner. Like that's how
it's
how
the
much
same room.
That's how
Yeah,
much more you
yeah.
wanted from this room last year. So you throw Evan Engram in there, boom.
Here's a
better.
weird one. Quarterback.
See that's an easy one.
You'd think
Bo Nix
that was my
is
first
taking
thought
a
too.
step. Easy.
Zach Wilson was a good quarterback 3 though.
And what did he do? He
looked real good on the bench.
He didn't step on the field
No, I
once.
agree. I agree.
So yeah,
you'd really have to
Bo
care
Nix.
about the depth to make that argument.
And then that's the exact same thing with the offensive line, Henry. The offensive line hasn't
Yeah.
changed at all. And so you would just hope with the second year of continuity with this entire group that they would take a step up. Last year, they didn't have that continuity because they had Lloyd Cushenberry the year before, and then it was Luke Wattenberg. So they were still kind of getting that continuity. You would think that just naturally, I will give the benefit of the doubt to a group being better their second year around. And the depth is the exact same.
Yep, it's the exact same. I wonder if, again, just playing devil's advocate because I agree. I wonder if you look at the stats from last year, like the number 1 run block win rate, number 1 pass block, all that sort of stuff, and say, well, odds are there's regression. It's really tough to be that good once again. And I don't know. I mean, you could counter that by saying, yeah, but the running game wasn't any good. So
Yeah,
maybe
the
they're
running
able
backs
to
weren't good.
translate that into a little bit more this year. Because you wouldn't think Garrett Bowles is going to regress at his age. But it's always a possibility.
No one's too old. I mean,
Yeah,
the Broncos
nobody
just gave
else,
Bowles
yeah.
a new extension, so
Yep.
he better not be too old.
Exactly.
I feel the same way about the defensive line as I do the offensive line. Like, nothing's changed. In fact, I like the depth a little bit more because of Savion Jones. I
Yep.
really like that piece. But again, just the continuity, one more year in a row. Malcolm Roach now in his second year with the Broncos. So it's the same group, but should be better than last year. Inside linebacker with the Broncos moving on from Lavelle Bailey. That was
Yeah.
the shocking move in
Yep.
the Broncos 53-man roster in the cuts. But they replaced that in the offseason in terms of like how strong this group is by going and signing Dre Greenlaw in the offseason. So
Yep.
that blows away that move, obviously. But the Lavelle Bailey move was shocking. And instead, a UDFA gets a spot on the roster.
The Drew Sanders piece is interesting. I guess he missed the beginning of last year too, though.
That's true.
So that goes 1 for 1. But yeah, so you replace Cody Barton with Dre Greenlaw.
Which is, you
Yep.
went like this. It's like, boom, woo, way up there.
As long as he's on the field, we'll knock on wood. You
very
can't.
true.
You can't help if you're not on the field. But yeah, I mean, then depth wise, it's still Justin Sternad. Last year, if you ask PFF, the Broncos, I think maybe best defender last year was Quan Alexander because when he came in, he was so good in those couple of games. And the Broncos didn't care enough to keep him after they'd used his practice squad elevations because they would have had to cut somebody else to keep him around. And he went and played for another team. You are replacing veteran depth with likely younger depth at linebacker. And hopefully you don't need to use your 4th linebacker, but there's a potential pitfall. I obviously agree with all these, though.
Sure.
Don't get mad at me in the comments.
Sure. Position overall, though, you're right about
Yep.
maybe that depth piece, but
Yep.
position overall better. Edge, kind of the same as defensive line, pretty much the exact same
Yep.
group. But here'd be my argument for edge, not just the continuity, because I don't know how much that really matters when you're talking about 2 edge positions on the opposite side of the defensive line. But this group is so incredibly young that you would just hope that naturally development gives them a step up. Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, both 10-plus sack seasons last year. They get another opportunity. Nick Bonito is only entering his 4th year in the NFL, and the depth is only going to get better. Jonah Ellis last year was the only player in the NFL that had 5 sacks who was 21 years or younger, so he gets to develop. And then I love Q Robinson, and we saw it in the final preseason game where he had the strip sack, and then we heard Nick Bonito talk about him where essentially he said if he knows what he's doing, he is unstoppable.
Yeah. Again, like you look at it individually and say it should be better, but also, and this combines with the defensive line, you had 9 more sacks than any other team in the NFL last year. The last time a team went back to back as the sack leader, I think was at least a decade ago. And so maybe the Broncos are able to run it back. Talent wise, you would think at the very least they should be the same as last year. Although it's another one where, similar to the offensive line, I guess, I'm curious if you do see like a dip in production, which would have us reevaluate. But with the same players, you wouldn't expect the players are any worse,
Right.
the roster's any worse.
And then to round it out, you just look at the secondary. There's no question at the safety spot that Talanoa Hufanga just made that group better because you took your starting safety from last year, who Talanoa took over, and he's now your backup, PJ Locke. So, boom, that one's better. And then at cornerback, You have the defensive player of the year now. I guess he was on the field last year too, and Pat Surtain when he actually won defensive player of the year. But you had a first-round pick in Jahdae Barron. Boom. That just makes the depth even better. Your fourth cornerback last year at times. Your third cornerback, Chris Abrams-Drain, is now your fifth cornerback. He's the best fifth cornerback in the NFL. Jahdae Barron or Jaquan McMillan, whichever one you want to say is the third cornerback, is the best third cornerback in the NFL. And then whichever one's the fourth is the fourth best cornerback in the NFL. And by the way, you have the best number one cornerback in the NFL with Pat Surtain, and I think Riley Moss has a chance to develop into being the best number two cornerback in the NFL. So this group, I think at cornerback, is the best in the NFL, and it's not even close, and you did get better from last year. Did that blow your head off there? Is that a little too much?
I would just kind of tone it down by like 20%. Give me like 80% of that on the same page.
You know I don't tone anything
down.
No,
I know you don't, and that's why we love you. But like cornerback 3, I just off the top of my head, I can't name a cornerback 3 I'd rather have. If I took a day and tried to figure it out, there might be an answer.
Yeah, but sure, right now,
I'll just take all of what you said and just 20% off the top, and we're on the same page.
So that's how we're feeling. We're feeling really good about this roster. I clearly
think
the punter.
Except
the punter. I love the punter though.
You do, I love the punter.
I'm scared. You bring up good points about the punter, but I'm okay rocking and rolling with them. Let us know in the comments if you agree. Is there any position this year that is worse than last year? I don't think so, but let me know if I missed something. Thanks for tuning in.